And we're live here face to face with me and Carlos Phoenix from the Lounge Network and Ralph Williams from E37 Photography. Today we're going to cover a little bit in the film and media networks of technology, only because everything again is impacted. Like I always say, everything's impacted by technology, but these are two elements that I feel have not only been impacted, but they contribute heavily all the way back to things like Napster and the origination of Facebook into the film industry, where the film now has been affected and because of downloading and then people copying films. And then where Ralph is concerned, I feel like photography is really the basis for which a lot of apps actually are even possibly popular right now. Because if you look at the way that most people use apps, think of Instagram and Facebook, a lot of people like to use photography, and a lot of people utilize it specifically for the photography element. So we're going to go into technology from those two standpoints today. But first, I want to do a quick recap on some things that happened. Of course, you guys can interject at any time that you choose. Oh, Carlos popped off again. Okay, he'll be back though. Anytime you choose, you can jump in. This is really interesting because AT&T made a $50 million purchase this week for DirecTV. Now,
I heard something about that.
Right. It's something crazy because, I mean, it's a huge expanse. I mean, with, Comcast buying Netflix, what you're seeing now is the cable industries and the media industries that are out there for wireless and these type of technologies trying to stay alive. And that's what you're actually paying witness to, because the internet has now killed everybody. And that's why you have the FCC this week trying to keep some information alive, where you have I shouldn't say keep the information alive, but keep some things alive where they still have a grasp on what can be done with the internet. They want to remain in control, of course, so, net neutrality has been a big issue this week. The FCC, of course, meeting in full force, to all come to grips and solidify that they were backing net neutrality. And for that to be understood, I would advise everybody not to listen to me. Please go do the research on that. There is a link on the FCC website where you can actually contribute your feedback. They said they want your information. You only have 60 days to leave a message. This is probably one of the most important things in technology that's going to happen to impact you over the course of the next 5 years. So you definitely want to be able to contribute your piece, your say, where the FCC is concerned, if you believe that it actually makes a difference. And then of course where AT&T is concerned, AT&T is buying out DirecTV. That's pretty much a go, just like Comcast with Netflix. So now you're going to see where cable is emerging with these online networks, and then of course to expand cable, you now have satellite that's being provided not just from AT&T Uverse, but also from DirecTV. So all this again is technology. These are the parts of technology we're not really paying attention to because we classify it as wireless, but it's technology. Cable, still technology. So those are some things that I thought you definitely wanted to pay attention to. Tune into that. Go to the FCC.gov website and get your say heard. It's important that you make that type of impact. It's important that you have something that goes out to people. It's important that you actually contribute to this, and it's important that the FCC knows this is how we feel about this. I have my own stance. I won't tell you where to stand on that because I believe in freedom of choice. But know this: if certain things happen, you will not have the freedom to use the internet the way that you use it now. And there's a possibility that your prices could go up, not go down. So what you might want to do is pay attention to that. Read it thoroughly, net neutrality, on the FCC.gov website. Also, again, check out that AT&T direct TV purchase along with the Comcast Netflix purchase. So that keeps Netflix around indefinitely, unless, of course, I think, was it till 2027 that contract is viable. So they'll be around for a long time. I have a little lag on my screen, so like all my little facial expressions look really weird, so I apologize for that. Do you see it, Ralph?
That was a beautiful smile, beautiful smile.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, well,
I love
Ralph.
that background, though, the beach, the sand. You're not from Daytona Beach.
Oh, you are? That's where I went to school at.
Bethune-Cookman.
Yes, I did.
College, but now university. My mother graduated from there.
Yeah,
Oh, no, let's not go there. We have a case history now.
Go Wildcats.
I'm Mainland High School up the street.
Oh, really?
Across from Halifax Hospital.
I used to date Vince Carter's best friend, and he used to go to Mainland. Well, all of them used to go to Mainland, as a matter of fact. Oh, do you know Andre Cottle?
I think he came behind me. Might know some
okay.
of those people, though.
Eric Polite and those people. Anyway, so, yeah. Oh, Lynn Thompson. Do you know Lynn Thompson?
Yes.
Okay, I used to work for him. Okay, but anyway, so,
Small world.
yeah, right? I didn't even know that, Daytona. I never meet people from Daytona.
I'm homegrown from the world's most famous beach.
Coach Lucas and all those people.
Oh, Lord.
You know Coach Lucas? Okay, anyway.
I'm from Daytona Beach.
Coach Sy used to work for all of them. So, okay.
Well, a lot of times you can attend Bethune-Cookman but not know what's going on in Daytona Beach.
Oh, no, I know, because I used to live there. I used to live there, and I worked for the athletic department, so I was engaged with the community on a regular basis anyway. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. I did compliance. Anyway, skip over that. We'll talk about that later. So, okay, now going into technology for photography. Let me do this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your company, and then we'll go into the effects of technology. Tell us, you know, everything that you want us to know about your style and anything that you want to share.
Well, before that, can I just go back and just give you a little background?
Okay.
Okay, like I've already mentioned, I am from the world's most famous beach. And CAIRO has this beautiful beach background, remind me of the sun and the sand. So born and raised there, love the sun. And just real quickly, behind my house we had a grapefruit tree and 2 orange trees and a whole bunch of other fruit stuff like that. So I'm still a homeboy, going back there this summer sometime. But attended Mainland High School, Mainland Buccaneers. She already alluded to Vince Carter. Here's a little inside edition that you probably didn't know. Did you know Denzel attended Mainland High School for about a semester? Denzel Washington?
No, I didn't know that. I knew his son went to college here and played at Clark. I didn't know he was in Daytona. That's interesting.
Yeah, actually it was Morehouse.
Oh, okay, Morehouse.
Yeah, but in my yearbook, junior yearbook, there's a picture of Denzel in a football uniform. Yes, and there's also a picture of him on our yearbook page. So I'll go back a little bit.
You should copy and post that on Facebook. That's probably worth money.
it's a popular. Just like Vince Carter, we always try to but typically he's from Mount Vernon, New York. So quick, that's another story. He was down there for a minute. He got in trouble. He stayed with his sister that lived that worked at General Electric. So he was sort of like at one of those moments where he's trying to get settled down. But anyway, I played football for 5 years down there, so that gave me a little bit of competitiveness. But after leaving Mainland High School, I attended a school called Sterling College in Kansas. And thanks to my football coach, he got me a ride over there. I decided not to stay out in Kansas because the snow was a little bit too much for the kid. I'm a Florida boy. I like the sun and the sand. So I decided also to leave because couldn't decide on what I wanted to major. But I actually decided what I wanted to major when I was there. Guess what it was?
What?
First of all, let me give you a clue. I have an education background, so I taught as an educator. So what area would I go into in anything. Take anything. In education, any subject.
It had to be science.
Nope. Special education.
Oh, really? Okay.
I am a certified, bona fide, unduly qualified special ed teacher, but my specialty is in learning disability. And how I got into that, I had an aunt in New York, one of my favorite aunts, and she invited us to go to New York City for 2 weeks. She exposed me to a lot of things, cultural things, Radio City Music Hall. She lived in Harlem. So she was a big influence on me. And also, I had a best friend named Melvin. Melvin was in first grade. Couldn't read worth anything. I felt sorry for the boy. So in college, I decided to leave Sterling College because they didn't actually have a bona fide major in special ed. I thought I would go into sociality. I always wanted to do something to help people. So when I heard about, sociology is more about studying things. You want to go into social work. I said, no, that's not me. So I decided to go into special ed. Then I chose Alabama A&M University. That's in Huntsville. Some people call it Rocket City.
I know very well.
So I picked up a couple of degrees there, but strange enough, at your school, one of my best friends, I was taking 9 hours at Bethune-Cookman one summer. I said that would give me an edge so I can go back to A&M and get a jump on everything. I also worked, but Gerald Weaver was a photographer. He also taught karate. And Gerald, I met Gerald on campus. He said, Gerald, you remember 2nd Avenue, but now it's called, is it called MLK? No, it's called...
Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard.
Right. So at that time it was 2nd Avenue. And Gerald said, hey man, I got all this new equipment and I have a camera in the Hawk shop. You can get it for $15. It's a 35 millimeter. So, during the day that was pretty good stuff. People had Polaroids and Instamatic cameras, and not too many people. Digital wasn't there. So actually, I bought to make a long story short, I bought the camera, took one picture, it was in crystal of a waitress and put it down. Went back to school one year and looking for my dorm. The dorm council said, we don't have any space for you. And I said, uh-oh, you can't stay on campus. So what did I do? Picked up the camera and started photographing people. So eventually I photographed hundreds of people on campus. So that's how I got my own hand experience in photography. Then after I got a degree, actually before I even walked, I was working because you have a certain time each semester you get your certification. Well, remember I told you I went to Bethune-Cookman that summer. That gave me some extra credits. So I was ready to go. I was able to work in January, and I got a job in January teaching. But at the same time, I always felt I didn't want to work for people per se. I always wanted to work for myself. I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. So I think before the school year was over, I saw a place right below the hill of Alabama A&M and opened up that shop. And here's a surprise, I have another trade. And it has to do with art too. I'm a screen printer.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm a screen printer. So when I opened up that studio, I did screen printing and I did photography. Now I had help. Not good help, but I had help. But I also worked teaching as well. So I've done that a long time. So now I broke free from the education realm. This is my third studio. The first one was in Huntsville. The second one is in College Park for about 9 years. Downtown College Park, that's Main Street in Harvard. And the third one, which hopefully will be the last one, is E37 Photography, or you can call it E37. I just say E37 Photography. Now you're going to ask me what does E37 Photography means, right?
Of course I am, even though I already know. But
a lot of
first
people
I wanted to
do
ask
not
you
know.
to explain screen printing for people who might not understand what that is, and then we'll roll into what E37.
Okay, screen printing is basically, I learned it actually in Decatur, Georgia, from a guy named Richard Williams. And he knew my desire was to do photographic screen printing, which means you would get a black image on a clear acetate paper, sort of like a transparency. You would expose it to a muslin, burn it to a certain screen in a square, and you set them up. Basically, you have a squeegee board, you run ink across it, and you put the imprint. So the T-shirts you see are basically called screen printed T-shirts. And I did that because in school, I joined one of the most fabulous fraternities in the world.
Which one?
The most fabulous fraternity in the world. And we didn't have enough material. Neither did the other sororities and fraternities. So what did I do? I started printing it up. So, and then I would go out of town and go to shows. So that's how I started, making the money. So I did actually at that time more screen printing than photography. So eventually, I sort of let the screen printing go by because I had so much inventory to keep up. When I moved here to Atlanta, photography was more of a natural thing for me to do.
Okay.
So I just want to give everybody a little background on that part, so you won't be confused. Now at Alabama A&M, curious enough, as a freshman, sophomore, all the way up to graduate school, I did a lot of my research papers on computer technology. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I think I've written probably about 4 or 5 papers. So I had to be careful because you have a different instructor, you got to write something a little different, but I always had a different angle, switch the topic up. That was my pet peeve, even up to graduate school, and it went over very well. So I've always had a real big interest in technology. And like I say, E37 photography, where does the E37 photography come from? The E stands for
electronics.
Like I tell other people, my daughter would say it stands for Eugenia. Because her name.
Oh, that's your daughter's name?
So she said subconsciously you thought about Eugenia, but actually it stands for technology because I knew at some point the digital realm would eventually take over technology. That means photography and videography. And you can see now you can buy a camera where first of all you get say, are you taking still or are you taking video? And within 5 years from now they're going to come up with what they call more mirrorless cameras. So you can take still, flip it, video, still, flip it, video, and that's the way it's going. The 3 and 7, that's real. I gave you the short version. The 3, I was the 3rd child. Okay, and my line number was number 3, but 3 also stands for the Trinity, and it also stands for God's number for perfection. The 7 is God's number for completion. So you put 3 and 7 together, you can't lose. So also choosing that name is more iconic. It's like you think about Apple, you think about computer, you think about E37. I want to put the photography behind it. And my theme of E37 photography is come witness uniqueness from my eyes to yours, or I should say from E37 eyes to yours. And the goal of my social media is to actually go into places where people have never seen before, bring it to them, and sort of be kind of entertaining, but also informal. Information. Give them some information. So I go to a lot of places people will never go. So I try to present them in my social media.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that. I know people that try to become photographers literally every day, and everybody's not a photographer. So in the advice to people who see this as a career option, what is it that sets you apart as an artist? Because I see people now, everybody's doing edits. The edit is not the actual photography. The craft is in the photography. There's artwork in the edit. So what sets you apart? How do you get an eye? Because I don't have an eye. I have tried to take, everybody knows I take pictures all the time intentionally. So I love photos. I love to take pictures. I have a big thing for taking pictures. I love all the photographers. I just love being on camera, I think. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, a true photographer, and there are all type of photographers that photograph people, landscape,
right.
underwater, architect, all those things. But it's a difference between a snapshot and an actual, portrait or a professional image. And I think if I were to say anything, a photographer look more at the scene, as if it's a background or it's a canvas. Before I photograph your beautiful self, I'm looking at what's behind you. Now, if you're sitting on the screen, which I'm looking at now, in front of the beach, then what does the photographer have to do? He has to look at the lights. How is the sun shining on your beautiful face? Now, if there's too much sun and casting shadows on you, making you too dark, I got to make you a little brighter, or vice versa. So things could be too dark, things could be too light, and the photographer should know how to make those adjustments on the spot. Control. That's the difference. Control. You're not just taking a snapshot and say, "Oh, I have a picture." Photographers usually have a goal in mind. How do I want you to look in this particular setting? Because you could be in a low key, middle key, or high key setting. So, like right now, I see you in the front of a beach background. So you should look illuminated and beautiful,
Am
sunny
I?
and bright. And
Okay.
so we
Uh,
really, basically, photographers, we have a design image we're going for, and we shouldn't take any prisoners with that. We have to go for it. We just don't want to just take a photograph of anything. We have a certain image in mind before it ever happens.
I I know that you've been very skilled in this in the craft of it. But my question is, from a standpoint of photography, how do people treat you? Because I know I've heard stories, and I hear stories about the way people treat photographers, and I know it's really interesting. What I noticed is that I see a lot of photographers hit the fashion industry, and of course, because you have people instantly ready to pose. Um, but how do people treat photographers as far as, like, are you welcome? Do they see you as, and I guess it would depend where you go, but what has been your experience with, the industry and the way people treat you as far as being a photographer? Because to
Well,
me, I love you guys. I'm open to you being anywhere I go.
first of all, I do not want people to get the idea that I'm a paparazzi. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people love that type of business. They go and get those shots, and maybe they could get good money for it. Blah blah blah. Controversial pictures, but dealing with people of all type. I've had an instance here recently, and it was a friend wanted me. Well, a friend of another friend wanted me to do some prom pictures.
Just so you know, Carlos Phoenix has joined us
Okay.
also. We'll be talking to him in just a second. Hi, Carlos. Thank you. Please continue, Ralph. I'm sorry.
Well, some people will ask questions. How many pictures are you going to take? And all these things. But I may photograph 200 pictures, and I might only give them 50 pictures. But they don't realize that. The 50 pictures they have, they've been viewed, they've been edited, they've been cropped, a whole lot of things under consideration. No duplications. They don't need that. They don't need 2,000 of the same thing. So they getting 100 pictures. Well, hey, what does 100 pictures mean to you? So really, and I think Carlos will say the same thing. Once you edit it down, you want to give them the very best to save all the guesswork.
Yeah, I noticed. I see photographers take 1,000 pictures, and like 80% of those all be the exact same picture. You can take a flip book and watch a person move slowly, for all the pictures that they've done with people, blinking and winking and smiling or
Well,
not.
that's true. Listen, remember when we were at the white party, the winter white party?
Yes.
Well, I've probably nearly photographed 1,000 images, but they didn't see 1,000 images. First of all, I'm
Right.
not going to show crazy pictures of people eyes squirting out the side of their face, and I always try to make the best choices possible, and it's as if they were looking at my picture. So I'll try to show the very best. So that it takes a lot of editing.
Well, that's cool. Carlos, are you outside? I just realized that.
That's a different background, Carlos. I like it.
This is my green screen.
It's better than a green screen. I like it.
That's pretty cool. Is that really green screen, or are you outside?
Yeah, it's the green screen is really like 10 miles away.
Oh, okay, cool, right.
Yeah, I remember you had the green screen on earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, everybody on the planet is using the internet at my house, so I had to step out.
Oh, understood. Okay, so I guess I throw one last question at you, and this is the hard question, because you've watched now how cameras have gone from Polaroids to digital cams that have mirror. What impact for you personally has technology had on the photography industry?
Is this directed to me, right? Ralph Williams?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ralph?
That's easy.
Yes.
I alluded to one of the first things. I can photograph thousands of pictures very easily because it's digital. Now, in the old days, I'm not going to photograph 1,000 pictures and buy that much film. Forget it. Can you imagine just stretching out those rolls of film and your eyes going bug? No, it's not going to happen. So with the virtues of computer, people can use Lightroom. That's an editing type of deal. People can use Aperture. They get down to some of the final versions. They can use Photoshop, a whole lot of other deals. But it's just easy. I mean, I have a system where I can, first of all, flag them, get rid of the does, and then concentrate on the very best ones that I want to use. With people with iPhones, actually, I think that they have improved them so well that you get nice quality pictures, because I can actually say that I posted some pictures on Facebook, and one of my best friends, he is a trained photographer. And he asked me, what f-stop were you shooting it on? I said, man, that's an iPhone. And guess what? About 3 weeks later, he went and got an iPhone. So they actually have such a thing called iPhoneology.
Oh, really?
No, iPhoneography.
Yeah, iPhone, yeah. So technology has really brought it up to a point. But like say professionals, like say we shoot with a certain aim in mind, where other people are just happy to grab them a shot and be happy with it.
Yeah, see, I'm that person. I have a specific angle, but I'm okay as long as it's at that angle. I do. I'm like, I have to have this like downward. That's my thing.
Well, here's something that professionals know. We could use it depending on a certain lens you use. You can make a person look slimmer, narrower, taller. And sometimes if a person's face is a little round, you use a different lens that'll narrow it up a little bit. It's not going to change them per se, but just make them a little narrow up a little bit. And just professionals know that. But if a person just photograph them with a basic, like the iPhone camera, what you see is what you get. But with different lens and different lightings, the job of photography is to make people look good, the very best.
Well, the good thing also is with an iPhone, you can actually add lenses.
Actually, you sure can. You sure can.
Oh, yeah, that fisheye lens.
You can put like Canon lenses and Nikon lenses on an iPhone. So.
Yeah, I saw that. I think somebody did an app review on. Oh, speaking of app reviews, we have Carlos Phoenix, who is not only the owner and founder of the Lounge Network TV, but he's also a tech reviewer, and he has great information about technology and is an Apple product wizard. So, Carlos, thank you for joining us, and you know what, I don't want you to go anywhere, Ralph, because you still are a heavy part of this conversation, because I'm going to tie this together in a moment. But thank you for everything that you just said. But Carlos is here because Carlos represents another side. He's in the car now. Another side of the industry where Carlos has come from a place of being an illustrator for motion picture theater, and he now operates web TV and has his own network and everything. So I wanted to go, into a place where we could talk about things like Napster and Morpheus and to really get into the concept of where we've come to web television. Speaking of, how I just brought up the AT&T purchase of DirecTV and, of course, Comcast purchase of Netflix. So looking where Carlos sits, what he's doing now has such a heavy impact now. These huge companies are having to merge together just to stay alive from web TV. I mean, you look at YouTube. YouTube has 1 billion users on it now.
Hold on. Now, I have to interject there. I don't think they need to stay alive that way. I think they see the threat of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And want to cut it off. So they look at networks like what I'm doing, and they want to say, uh-oh, we can't have the users be fans of the little guy because we still want to be relevant. So, if you look at things like the arguments that Comcast has with Netflix, where Netflix has to pay double duty just to be with Comcast customers, AT&T, I think, is looking at the same thing, where they offer their internet and stuff, and they want to be able to be relevant with content by buying, the ability to control television in some way, shape, or form. So DirecTV, I think, is number 2 to Comcast in respect to the amount of customers, because they can access all the people who don't have the access to cable and what have you.
Correct.
The problem I see, and the issue I see, is if they can control or get content from the major networks and control that feed, they can cut off the little guy by controlling the internet.
Well, that's what I saw, that this net neutrality with the FCC
was
looking
that's a whole other part. That's all part of that game. So
yeah.
So what's happening, in my opinion, because I don't have analysts and all that stuff, but me as a startup and seeing other networks have been slowly getting bought out. YouTube just wanted to buy Twitch, which is a YouTube type website for gamers. All the big companies want to buy anything that's small, that's relevant, or kill anything that's not relevant. So, and the way to do that is by not necessarily aiming directly at us, but by buying out everything that could help us. And if the internet being free and open helps my potential network thrive, well, they don't want that, because that takes away eyeballs from them. And then, my network focuses on independent filmmakers, musicians, artists of all types. Well, if I create the next MTV online only, and it works, because it's just an idea I have, or if I have my own talk shows where I'm interviewing independent filmmakers who are the future of Hollywood, if I become relevant in that market, that takes away from the Letterman and although he's going to be gone too, but the late night talk shows and any other gossip shows. Eventually, I'm sneaking in by grabbing the people who may potentially be the future of entertainment. And if I'm the one that becomes more relevant than they are, because 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds watch more content online than they do on television, that's a threat in the next 10, 15 years when they become the adults buying all the advertising stuff. So that's the way I see it. And I'm constantly looking at those threats on the internet. And,
okay, I have a message from Steve Bird. He says, Comcast, co-owned with NBC, recently struck a deal with Netflix that would give them a fast lane for their streaming video on the internet, and is also buying Time Warner cable systems in New York, Los Angeles, and a few other cities. Blah, 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 blah. Just so you know.
Yes, that's part of what we were talking about. The Netflix is not happy with that because, but they had to comply um, it's a little bit more complex than simply saying free and open internet. There is the consumer, there is the feed, there is the site on the other site that also has a feed. So let's say Netflix, as an example, connects to the internet through a major company, which then has to feed to another major company that gets the message for the consumer. There's companies like Level 3, and then there's other companies. Basically, this is the infrastructure of the internet that we don't see. We just know that we pay Comcast the bill so we can get the internet.
Yeah, he came back and said, to clarify and reiterate, Comcast is not necessarily buying Netflix, but Netflix is paying Comcast more for faster video streaming. Comcast, however, is buying Time Warner cable systems.
Right, and that's another threat. I think that's conflict of interest, but because there's so much money involved and there's lobbyists involved, the government may not interfere at all. For someone who owns content to control the internet, networks like mine or the bigger ones, there's Twit TV, there's Revision 3, although Revision 3 got bought by Discovery, and other major networks, Machinima, and then networks that are in YouTube as well. YouTube's not threatened because they're one of the big conglomerates now, but anybody who's trying to create a small network to get their niche market is going to have a problem, because I can't afford to pay Comcast for a feed so that it's all high def quality. Netflix can pay because they're making a ton of money right now. Now, hopefully, I can get the type of backing by not only consumers but also potential companies or advertisers or whatever, where I can eventually pay that fee. But it's a toll. We're treating the internet like a regular street highway, and there's tolls that you're having to pay now, and that didn't exist before. So, and I'm sorry that my camera's kind of lopsiding, but anyway, that now is a threat, because if you're, let's say, a small retail store, and you also want to have, and it doesn't necessarily affect them as much, but let's just say hypothetically, a small retail store wants to compete against Amazon, which is a titan. It's like a grocery store opening next to Walmart, except on the internet. Let's say they had to pay all these extra fees. Small businesses have been able to get online fairly easy, because it might cost $10 a month to have a website, with a free host, or if you want to make a bigger site, you pay a host and then somebody to design your site. But there's a lot of free services out there that allow you to have a website. It's not that easy when it comes down to video, where video content and entertainment is having this big underground battle between an independent filmmaker, independent musician, surviving on their own and figuring out a formula that can make them somewhat as successful as a regular pop star. And the record industry doesn't want that. The Hollywood industry doesn't want that. But the internet permits that. And if the entertainment industry and the communications industry can join forces, they can easily just snuff that. And that's part of the problem.
Okay. So, I guess we all need to keep our eyes peeled for the FCC and AT&T and Comcast, Time Warner, and Netflix, and then DirecTV, and find out what they're going to be doing going forward as far as our internet service and cable access is concerned. So, and in our
basically, cable's at a big risk and a threat. Satellite is a big risk and a threat. And it's all because the internet allows us to access people in such an incredible way. For example, right now I'm in the car, video chatting with you, right. which is feeding to YouTube or the internet or whatever. That didn't exist 10 years ago.
Totally.
So the ability to create programming like as simple as this, it did not exist. So they're trying to fight and catch up as fast as possible to figure out a way against it, while we're trying to figure out how to make a way to make it work. And it's this little war in the whole entertainment field.
I think that's crazy. It's bananas what we have been able to accomplish online. And it's like I keep going back to Napster. I was the queen of bootlegging. Shouldn't say that on video, but you know, I didn't know. I don't think it was even illegal at that point. I don't know, but you know, there was a mixtape place down the
I think
street,
it's
and they
always
taught
been
me how to
legal.
do it. Oh, was it? Um, so don't tell anybody. Just set it on camera. Even though, you know, looking back and to see, you know, where we've come from, you know, where that entered into the marketplace and then just kind of erupted into the film industry and the music industry, and has actually altered the entire music industry in the way that they do business, to the point where now we're watching movies and listening to music for 99 cents or $2 or $5 instead of going to the theater, and has impacted the standalone theater so much. I mean, don't even get me started with shopping, but it's impacted the standalone theater so much that, you know, more people would rather sit at home and watch TV and movies in their living room as opposed to, you know, going to the theater. People are building out more in-home theaters now because of this. And we didn't get your background, so I think maybe we should do that. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? We're doing this in reverse now.
Okay, well, gee, where do I even begin?
Is this your new car, by the way?
It's not. It is not. It's an old car, but
oh, it's an old car. Okay.
but I needed to get a little better signal. So, well, long story short, let's see. Worked in advertising at the age of 18 from New York City, the largest ad agency in the United States. From there, at the age of 19. Started getting hired. I studied illustration and painting and that type of stuff in Italy. Came back and started doing work for a lot of the comic book companies, small and large. From there, at the same time, I started working in the film industry, doing storyboard art, and then eventually getting into building sets, art directing, set dressing, props, you know, the whole art department type of thing. And eventually did music videos, commercials, TV shows, and I'm just really skipping through a lot of stuff. Last largest music video was Busta Rhymes' "Put Your Hands Where Your Eyes Can See 'Em," and then I worked on an Argentinian film, of which then I had a car accident and left both industries. Moved from there, from New York City to Georgia. And I started trying to get into the industry here in Atlanta. Worked on storyboards for one film with Tyler Perry, which was his first film, feature film. Did some stuff for Nelly, and then decided to start doing things like the Lounge Network, which originally was starting as a DVD magazine, and then it morphed into the internet, where I interview independent filmmakers, musicians, and artists of all types, and I push their music and their art and their films and their web series and all that type of stuff, and here I am. So that was a really compressed version of what
yeah, it is. Because for most people, if you don't know, if you go to Carlos's About Me page, you can see some of his outstanding illustrations where his pictures actually jump off of the image that he's illustrated. I mean, just gorgeous stuff. Great superheroes, action heroes that he's designed, body parts. Body parts that he has. I mean, great illustrator, really, really talented, gifted person.
Thank you.
In addition to being extremely creative and very intelligent. So tune into the Lounge Network and watch a little TV. So that's on the loungenetwork.com. Where's the Lounge Network?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, loungenetwork.com. You can actually check that out and see some of the things that Carlos has. Tell us a little bit about the Lounge Network and what you have on the website.
Sure. So the loungenetwork.com is originally was the loungemagazine.com. Originally, the idea was to modernize the magazine by making it more digital oriented. And rather than reading the articles of these interviews like you do now, you know, when you pick up a magazine on the news shelf, it was originally going to be a disc that you pick up, and it looks like a magazine, but there's a disc inside, and you get to watch it. You get to see the personality of the musician. You get to watch clips of their music videos, or you really get to interact with them a lot. In the process of building that, I realized I wanted to make more content about different things, and rather than me doing all the content, I decided to open it up and have people who are already creating content join the club. So there's different TV shows. I'll call them TV shows even though they're online. So there's comedy skits. There is rock band performances, live performances throughout Atlanta. And then I built this TV studio at my home studio where I get to interview people from all over the world. You got Japan, London, Spain, and then, of course, nationwide here, Florida, New York, California, Chicago. And I'm opening the doors for now. You know, I'm now going to do a series called Artist Alley, which should be launching in the next week or two, where I'm interviewing some of the top illustrators and comic book artists that we've known of. Some of them which are good friends of mine because I grew up in that industry. And so rather than it being a very stiff conversation, it's a lot more personal because I get to ask those questions because I grew up with these guys. You know, I get to say, hey, you know, what happened to Mary? You know, and talk about not only their techniques, their skills, but what they've done, what got it. You know, basically kind of like you're questioning me, what got them into this. And the idea, of course, is for the viewer to, you know, instead of reading that magazine, be able to see their personality, see how they talk, see how passionate they really are, and really become a fan of theirs. And it's a little different. It's very different than your typical talk show where there's little snippets and prepared statements. Mine there's no preparation. It's completely raw, and it's all about getting to know them. And so at the same time, for most of those people, I don't know them either. So I'm asking questions as if I'm going to become a fan, and I want to know who you really are. And they're very open and candid, and it's you know, it's beautiful because I have no prepared questions. It's just raw. Let's do this. And so hopefully, you know, it doesn't get too boring for some people. If they're really into the music and if they're really into the artwork and the paintings and the films. And I partner with companies, which is a big thing right now. I'll explain that in a second. The Lounge Magazine, the Lounge Network, is now going to grow into a bigger entity because I partnered with another company where they have their own version on Netflix, strictly focused on independent films. That being said, I get to interview the people who are making those films, and rather than that film being this, well, yeah, there's a film in existence, but there's nowhere for you to see it, now there'll be a place where you can actually go, sit back and watch it and enjoy it like you would any Netflix film. So now you get to see the talent, and you get to see the people who are behind the talent. And just like Hollywood, where there's a film that comes out, and there's a place where you can see them being interviewed on Entertainment Tonight or on, you know, originally Jay Leno and Letterman and that type of stuff. Now there's my show where you get to see them sit back and talk about how hard it was to do that film and the behind the scenes and where the ideas came from and that type of thing. So that's kind of where I'm picking it up from. Is I want to kind of give that platform to everybody who doesn't have a platform, who has the talent, but have nowhere to really express it or tell it. So if they have the same kind of opportunity to sit down and share, like all the Hollywood bigwigs do, and they have fantastic music and fantastic talent, you get to become a fan, and they get to feel like a celebrity because that's how I want them to feel, that talent just wasn't a waste. Somebody's paying attention.
That's where I see the industry, I mean, both on the film side and the actual photography side. I see the industry going into a shift mode just from that statement, because where now everybody is media. this takes us to a place where everybody can now contribute to the masses of things that are out there. So as opposed to only the little sect of Hollywood, I can turn myself into a celebrity. You know, a few $100s, we're good. And so I think if a film company is actually trying to, you know, really get themselves out, a great way to do that is to go on some of these online movie networks, TV networks, and put your films there. It makes so much more sense to me because you'll have more people who can interact with you, and because you can now become socially tangible to these people, you likely have more supporters. So on your way to Hollywood, I think this is where is what could possibly be a threat to these industries, because you have a way now to connect people on a more personable level with these stories being told in film, even if they're fiction or a documentary or whatever, you know, sci-fi. You now can connect with these producers. I actually sat in a production meeting the other day, and it was very interesting. I just learned how the flow of a production works, something I just didn't know about film, you know, and how, you know, contracts were signed, and when you bring people to the table what happens. It was very interesting. I would suggest if you ever have an opportunity to go out and do that, you actually participate in it. But to see, you know, the world being revolutionized by technology for these two industries specifically, which in my mindset technically are all media, but
I mean, all media.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's books, it's art, you know, like illustration and comic book art, that type of thing. It's music, it's film, and like you said, everything's become affordable. So there's a huge the shift began as soon as things went digital. You know, you were speaking earlier about cameras.
Right.
For someone to be able to buy a DSLR and be able to come up with a film quality film by not having a Panavision camera, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million. I've worked at Good Morning America, and on some of those cameras, the lens alone is like $1 million. So to be able to produce your film, which still costs a lot of money in independent terms, you know, you still need a few $100s or $1,000, you know, a couple $1,000s to put a whole film together. But there are people who are squeezing all this talent out for free, except, you know, they got to get the equipment. But all that work, all that effort, where does it go? You know, they have their fingers crossed. They're taking all those risks, and yet, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of films out there, I'm sure, that no one's ever seen, that nobody's ever heard of. It's up to ideas like what I'm hoping to put together, or what I am putting together along with others, to give them that form of distribution that Hollywood doesn't want to do, and to give them that platform of recognition, and to give them and make them feel like they do when the celebrities do, with their different programs and shows and so on, and have the consumer who's now addicted to watching everything online be part of that flow. So that to them, there's no difference between them watching a show online than it is to watch it on TV, but it's all new personalities, and they get to be in with that underground and feel like cool because I caught it first. Eventually, that will flow into mainstream, but we gotta work with that system now, and Hollywood's having a hard time with that. They're trying, but they got the thousands, you know, they got the money to be able to create apps and all that type of stuff. So it's competition.
I don't see where they can actually compete unless, you know, more money is to go their direction. And I know more people are less engaged by the thought of putting films in Hollywood now as opposed to putting it on the web. I actually can personally testify. I went 2 years without watching TV. All I did was watch Hulu and the internet, because everything that was on, this is prior to them creating those Plus accounts, of course, but everything that I wanted to watch on TV was already on the web.
But that's the big companies again, trying to cut us off at the pass by creating things like Hulu, so that you don't want to watch the independent stuff. You see them?
Right.
They still want to be relevant, and Hulu works. I mean, I watch Hulu all the time, but they're in one way they're helping us, and in another way they're helping themselves. So they're helping us by making it more making it normal to watch things online. which helps us, and it helps them because they get to still be relevant with their content.
The neutrality. I get that part. Yeah. So where do you see companies like AIRO? Like, is it AIRO? Aereo, who has taken television content and now made it accessible for $8 as opposed to paying $20 to $80 for internet access. I mean,
I think it's an interesting take. They're breaking a lot of rules. They're trying not to get entangled in that, and that's cool as long as they can do it and it still be legitimate. What I like about it is, and this has actually been a thought on my mind, is they're getting in trouble because they're rebroadcasting standard terrestrial television. I want to approach them and say, hey,
right.
Take my network. I'm not going to bitch about it. Take my network and broadcast it over the air or through the internet. And so they'll be on CBS, NBC, and then all of a sudden the Lounge Network. I want to be side by side right there with them. I don't want to be on cable television. I want to be in the next generation television. And if AIRO is one of those companies that can do that and they're willing to say, you know what, that's a great idea. I want to be right there with them.
I honestly think to me, that will be the best way for these companies to stay relevant, because you still, of course, have that population of people that are afraid to use anything on the computer. And right now, there's so much good content on the internet, it makes sense to pick stuff up off the internet and rebroadcast it on television. I mean, I would even
as long as it's legitimately done. As long as it's legitimately, like right now, the Lounge Network show, I have my show called the Indie Lounge, and then soon the Artist Alley show. Artist Alley being a comic book convention term where all the artists are, where you find them to do your autographs and stuff like that. Both the Indie Lounge will be on there's a technology that I'm working with where on the website's called Lounge TV. But it is part of a technology called OpenVisionNetworks.com, where you can download an application to your computer and tune into my channel, which is channel 153, along with hundreds of other channels of all independent content. So basically what you're doing is you're watching cable television on your computer, but there's no major networks on it. And it's all independent shows like mine. And the idea is that it's not video on demand. It's just whatever's streaming at the time is what you're watching. So that's one technology that I'm involved with. The second is partnerships with a company called iFlixTV.com, where they're the ones that are like Netflix with independent films. I'll be launching other websites this year that makes that content more relevant. Where the consumer can actually participate, because I want it to be like a rating system. I want to be able to create a rating system for independent films where I've watched it or one of my folks that are working with me watched it, and they rate it. They give it, the drama was great, the acting was fantastic, the costumes were good, like regular films are rated. But then on the same website, we'll link to the actual film. The person can watch the film, come back and say, oh yeah, this is my rating, kind of like Rotten Tomatoes, where you can see the critics and then what people who've watched it and what they say about it. So that site is in the process of being built and will hopefully launch by the summer. But and all that will then feed into the Lounge Network. What was that?
I said that was actually brilliant, because I thought about doing some movie reviews and food reviews on my website, since it's two things I love to do, eat and watch movies. But but I didn't even think about doing independent films. That's genius, because that opens up a whole new platform for independent film, especially where your website is concerned, because you actually have a magazine layout on the website. So with the
so the website will have, you read a small little article, or we'll do a show on the where we're going to have hosts talk about their ratings, and then you'll see the rating itself, and then you can actually interact with the website. But it's not just going to be about movies. It's going to be about just about anything. So it'll be about fashion. It'll be about maybe recipes. I mean, that particular website will be open to a lot of things, but the film video portion will be focused highly on the iFlix TV website, where they're going to have the films so you can actually sit down and watch them. So it really is going to give that extra platform where those who are doing independent films have a place to not only show it, but then we're pushing it. We're pushing it by rating them. We're pushing it by interviewing them. We're pushing it in every possible way that Hollywood is not paying attention to.
Okay, well, you have some people who are viewing. A lady sent a message named Too Cute, and she said, "This is great. Sorry I missed the first part, but watching it now." Thank you, Too Cute. We appreciate that. Mwah. Please, again, check out E37 Photography. That's Ralph Williams here, and we have Carlos Phoenix, who is from the Lounge TV Network, The Lounge Network, TLN, theloungenetwork.com. So it's a TV network online. He's also affiliated with iFlix TV. Shouts out to Autumn Bailey Ford. Autumn Bailey Ray's a singer, as Corinne Bailey Ray. Anyway, so Autumn Bailey Ford, who is, I think, she's over iFlix, correct?
Yeah, she also does the Get Connected every month.
Correct. So that's pretty cool.
So you can see how the structure is coming together. You can see how, especially in conjunction with Autumn, how the structure of creating independent and make it more relevant is coming together. And there's a lot of things that we'll be announcing during the course of the year, so I got my fingers crossed. It should be very interesting.
That's wonderful. Okay, and then you also have another message from Steve. Steve said, video stores have gone bust due to the internet. Would movie theaters be next, or will there be a market for those?
Well, so I've been interviewing a lot of artists, right? People who, I'll be adding a lot more people from Marvel, people who are independent comics. One of my favorite, if you know Star Wars, you'll know that if you ever collected any of the Star Wars comic books, I interviewed this artist. His name is Dave Dorman, who is like the king of Star Wars paintings, who he did a lot of the covers for Dark Horse's Star Wars comics. So I have a full interview with him, and people like him, and we talk about that. We talk about how, not just the art part, but how everything's changing. And film in particular, right now, those 3D films are looking pretty impressive. Watching Spider-Man, and the reason I bring the whole comic book thing into play is because I think that's what's saving Hollywood right now. They've run out of stories, but almost every other film that's coming out is a comic book that's existed since back in the 70s or even before that. And those visuals, those visual effects, I have to say I'm not going to wait till it comes out in video to watch those kind of films. So as long as there's that grandiose excitement and those visuals that just are mind-blowing, I'm going to go to the big theater and watch that. Yes, the TVs are getting to 80-inch and 100-inch, in the long run, but that's still a ways away. They've been experimenting with all sorts of stuff technology-wise to make you want to go to the theater. And I just watched Godzilla, and it's just like, you can't watch something like Titanic, for example, and Godzilla on your iPhone.
No.
You just don't feel it. Lord of the Rings, the second film, he used a special frame rate, a high-end frame rate, in 3D as well. And watching it, it's the most hyper-realistic film I've ever watched in my life. You feel like you're there, with the exception of rain hitting you, and that's easy to do eventually. But that film was mind-blowing. And you can't right now, with even today's technology, duplicate it at home.
Speaking of that, interesting that you said something like that. Ralph, did you watch the Billboard Awards last night?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so what I want you to do when we get off here, I would do this now, but I don't think it'll show on my computer, but the Michael Jackson scene in the Billboard Awards last night was done with holographic imaging. So I'm watching all the news reporters, of course, trying to cover this and not understand what holographic imaging is. And people in the audience going, oh, wow, how are they doing that? Well, really, I think the concept is, are you driving away too?
No, I'm trying to prevent the mosquitoes from coming in. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. But to see where Michael Jackson, you know, looks like he's in real time, and I even saw where people said, well, they dressed up somebody to look like Michael Jackson and then pre-recorded it and put it on stage. And really what you see is a holographic image with 3 to 5 cameras that are being projected into one point. So the movement of Michael Jackson is actually taking place. And of course you can see the dancers, but it's just cameras, all different cameras shooting different colors and scenes into one location. So, of course, they can accentuate it by putting the cyborg police officers in the front of the stage and make it look like it's in real time, but it's actually 3D projection from different cameras. So, so likely if it's 3D, it's probably 3 dimensions, 3 different cameras from 3 different places projecting the image to one location. So, you know, thinking of things like that, you know, where do you see, Ralph, I'll start with you. Where do you see the future of photography going when you know you have 3D and 5D around the corner?
Well, actually, 3D photography, it's been used some years back. A lot of people may not know about it. I actually had a camera that could take 3D pictures, and the pictures would be in 3 dimensions. You can see the foreground, the mid part, and the depth. But for some reason, the commercial aspect didn't take off because of the expense and things like that. But I think it's going to make a comeback. You're right about the lighting, the cameras. You can have 4 and 5 different cameras. You can create that illusion with that Michael Jackson, and that's that splash. So it probably was a very good presentation last night.
It was.
Oh, yes.
So what they did was they had a Michael Jackson dance impersonator do the dancing, and then they used a computerized 3D animated version of his head, and then merged it together to do the dance. So that was all pre-recorded, but because it is the dance, the dancers know when and where, when to perform and how to do the whole dance around this projection on it. It was beautiful. It was very well done. I know there's a lot of criticism as to whether they should have done it or not, but I'm not going to get into that. It just shows that he's still relevant, that his music is still awesome. There was a lot of comments about, well, these are songs that he rejected. They should have stayed rejected because that's what he wanted. But, you got your fans. You got the estate that wants to make more money, because I know he was almost broke before his big This Is It concert. So there's just a lot of, there's just a lot of controversy behind it. Now, that could be a future of anybody who's dead to continue to be able to make money. And God is going to eventually charge a ticket to get into heaven or something. I don't know. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that one.
I wonder how many people would pay to see Michael Jackson in heaven.
All right.
That's funny. That actually could be a movie.
There will be some coming up.
Rolling right along. No. Okay, well, listen, Ralph and Carlos, we're hitting about 15 minutes before we're going to close out. I would love for the two of you to plug anything. I actually just thought of an idea while you were saying that. Oh, my God. Think of something that you want to send people home with from the photography and web TV, film industry side of technology. And, if you want to leave people with a soft message or hit them in the face with something hard, now's a good time to do it. And then we can close out the show. And I would love to have both of you back again, maybe when we get on the real show, Carlos. We do the real show. And then, or even on any other platform that I might be on. To have both of you on so we can expand the message of technology and get people familiarized with technology does not just apply to the fact that tech from the tech communities where you talk about apps and mobile phones. That's not the only part of technology there is out there. We got a whole universe of creativity and things that are innovative and coming out of nowhere. And this gentleman right here, if you see his website and the things that he's done with it, it's cool. So, and then you look and you watch the type of artwork that can be applied to technology to literally physically change the image that somebody looks like when you look at Ralph's photography. It's crazy. So go ahead, Ralph, and plug you and whatever message you want to plug, and send people home with their feel-good message or their shock and awe, one of the two.
Well, basically, my whole goal of this new company is to build for the future, and I see the merging or already exists of still and video. So you're going to see a lot of those elements mixed in together. Also with music. And, you know, music plays a big deal in all type of media. Like Carlos knows, you could have music behind it, setting up the scene. Even if Godzilla could be the biggest thing in the world, but there's got to be something behind it to bring some drama. But I'm going to incorporate a lot of video and still coming up. And what I like to do with my social media, and sometimes I consider myself as being a photographer blogger, because let's give you an example. If I do a special event, I don't just walk into the special event. What people do not know, I have to do some research. Say if I'm going to do the Trumpet Award, I need to know who are the honorees, research them, know their name, things like that. Because what does that do? When I see them on the spot, I can identify them. Afterwards, when I repost those pictures, here we go with the social media. Handles, hashtags, I need to know that, and I have to do it quickly. Because once I get it out there, people want to see it. So if Chris Tucker sees his work, he's going to retweet it. If Megan Good sees her work, she's going to tweet it. And that's the way I roll. Fortunately for me, within a short year, not even a year time, I've had several publications in magazine, Modern Luxury Magazine, Creative Loaf and newspaper, things like that. I may not be known as the best photographer right now, but my goal is to be the most known photographer. So basically, I try to push it out there with the various social media through Instagram, Facebook, my blog, all that kind of stuff like that. So it basically, it puts me out there in front, but also it makes it entertaining for the viewer. For example, I'm going to do a series coming up, just the street life of Atlanta. Just picture, I'm walking down the street, working urban situation. I'm on the floor, I'm on the street, I'm going to bring it to you. So that's an example. I like to do some cool things that'll make it really interesting for the viewers. That's just my little deal.
Outstanding. And that's good information. Do you have any advice for anybody, anything like that?
Right. If you want to go into photography, first of all, you want to pick it up and start taking pictures with it, but you want to get some type of formal education. For me, I went to Winona School of Photography, and then by a member of the Professional Photographers of America, I'm trained with some of the best in the world, attend conventions, go to workshops, things like that. But just don't be afraid to experiment. Use different techniques. There are all type of techniques, all type of media. Do your own thing. Be original. And actually, for my business, I don't think I've even scratched the surface of what people will actually see. I know that. So it's just, like I said, one step at a time. I have to deal with financial business things. I don't just do fashion. I don't do just special events. I don't just do portraits. It's a variety of things. So basically, I will say this here. If I take it today, you can see it tomorrow, or you can see it that evening. And CDs are good, but the way I like to deliver my images now, through the virtues of the cloud, meaning that if you want to see a picture right after I photograph it and you're all good, I'll say, do you know what Dropbox means? Well, Dropbox, guys, is that folder up there in the internet. I'll upload those photos out there. You can kick them out there to your constituents, and there you go. So that's the way I try to deal these days.
You know, I have to just say, this was a killer show. I'm watching people repost your information online right now. Thank you, guy I call in New York. Fairies Maxwell, call him cousin. So thank you for reposting, and to Too Cute and to Steve Bird and all the people who I see putting information out there on social media. Thank you so much, Bobby, Johnny, Wesley, and if I missed somebody, I mean, all you people who have been actually retweeting this information. The cool thing about this is if you're tuning in at any given point in time, you can tune into these shows, my show, Carlos's show, and this stuff is viral. So when I'm posting it everywhere all over the internet, these two people now, nobody could be watching this right now, but it's going to turn into a podcast where it'll be archived in what Al Burrows refers to as perpetual advertising. And everything that's on this show is now going to be viral forever. So it's a great idea to get on and do interviews with me or with Carlos, you know, and get your information seen and heard. Get your photo taken by E37 Photography. And did you give your website already?
What's that?
Did you give your website already?
No, I'm in the process of creating a new one now. But I did want to mention this. My handle for Instagram and Twitter is just like it says, E37 Photography, just like it is. That's the Instagram and that's the Twitter. If you want to Google E37, you'll find some other different links for the company.
Superlative. I want to thank you for joining me and all the information that you shared. This is probably going to be awesome when people watch it later. And you know, there are people watching now, but I think more people will see this. And of course, you can always go to my YouTube page and you can see this at any other time, and you can pick it up and share it and send it to other people, because there's information here that people need to know, especially about this FCC net neutrality. Please go to fcc.gov and go share your thoughts on that if you think it matters. So go make sure.
Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of people don't really understand it, but they should look it up.
Yeah, that information is happening right now, so that's good information, Carlos. That's the latest, greatest, Cario.
and Carlos, thank you again for joining me. If you want to send some people off with some feel-good love and energy and plugs about the Lounge TV network or your work, your illustrations, where people might be able to hire you or join up with the Lounge TV network, the Lounge Network TV. If we can get on your site, how we can connect to you through iFlix, you know, I mean, you know how to send people off. You do this every day.
Sure. All right. So there's a lot of things happening this year, but right now, the launching of the new technology, Lounge TV, it's the first link on the loungenetwork.com website. You can just sit back and watch full screen, back-to-back episodes, and so that's a distribution platform. The next thing is the Indie Lounge on the loungenetwork.com is my show where I interview these artists. On the website also there is a link for music videos. You get to watch in music videos on all these new artists. All of them are incredible. It's just they're not like just people in the garage playing around. These are music videos that you look at it and it looks like they should be on MTV. So they're very high quality videos. We'll be launching a new music video show where rather than you clicking on video on demand shows, we're going to do, there's going to be a host and they're going to be introducing these music videos. And as you're watching the music videos, there'll be pop-up information during the video where you can learn about that artist. And if we've done an interview with them, we'll probably show a clip or two or show a link to where you can watch that interview of that particular artist. It's all artists, all music. So punk, hip-hop, rock, dance music. We just did an interview with an artist in London. It's John S. Sebastian, and you know, there's no limits right now. The way I have that studio set up, if you watch it, everything's done in real time. There's no editing. It's all instant as we're talking. Soon I may even do everything live, like we're doing right now, where all the graphics and everything's happening in real time. And you're watching it live. We did one test show, which came out great, and we had 5,000 viewers all of that same day watching us live. We had a small audience. It was great, live performances. And then that's another thing where I'm looking into doing a show where there's live performances where you really get to see a raw version of these people's talent during an interview. So, and then during the summer, we're also working on a potential concert. So there's just a lot of movement. There's so many things that we're doing, that we're looking to do. And if you knew the size of my team, you're going to be like, how is all that being done? It's because, you know, we're doing everything as independently as the independents are doing. So, so just theloungenetwork.com. On my info or about page, there's information on how to contact me. The Lounge Net, Facebook.com/The Lounge Magazine, because I launched it when it was The Lounge Magazine. There's on the webpage, you have all the links to all the social media, so you can just go there and check me out.
I'm glad you just said that, because I don't think I'm on that page. So the Lounge Magazine is what is on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Too Cute said, can we get this link to the Lounge Network? Yeah, Too Cute Fairies, he just posted it on my page in the same comment that you just posted on. If you look, it says the Lounge Network, and there's a yellow kind of icon there with a red lounge chair, and it says TLN, so it's the Lounge Network. Just click on that blue link. Yes, thank you so much, Fairies. Yes, that's it. So
and I'm on Google Plus, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but you know, Instagram is more of a personal thing where I have my artwork, that type of stuff. So it's not really related to the lounge. But you know, when we start covering live events, there will be a Lounge Network Instagram where you get to see the red carpets and that type of stuff. So there's a lot of things coming up. And then Cairo and I have been talking a long time about doing a tech show. So that's yet another thing in the works.
That's going to happen. It's going to happen. Well, shoot.
There's also a travel show on the Lounge Network where I travel through everything from South America, Mexico, Jamaica, you know, and I give ideas and hints as to how you can save a ton of money when you're traveling. So check that out too.
Okay, so Too Cute says she had it, and that's wonderful. What's really cool is that we were talking about the tech review show. The gentleman, Ferris Maxwell, he actually has designed some tech wearables, and I don't know how much I can speak about it, but it's pretty cool. So I'm not going to say much, but he actually has designed a tech wearable that is actually fashionable, and it's not wrist wearable. So it's something different. He's out of New York, and he actually works with the film industry, independent film, from a gentleman who has some really cool intros. So that's a big plug. I can't remember what his name is, though. Dang it. I think it's Deshazar Films. I want to say it's Deshazar Films. But check that out. They're on BMO. So if maybe you guys can connect and Fairies connect with the Lounge Network, talk to Carlos. Maybe Carlos and you can do some exchanging of information. And Too Cute's in music and comedy. So it would be really cool to be able to set some things up where maybe you can do some interviews and shows, or try to get on to the Lounge Network and schedule something with Carlos if possible. And you can contact him on his website. That would be really good. I really appreciate you joining me. Like I said, I really want to have you guys back. I definitely want to talk more about film and photography more regularly so people can understand the technology that is being used right now. It's not just apps. It's not just mobile phones, everything. Everything, everywhere is technology. So you, of course, can reach me. Now, let me go through all this. Reach me on thetechsocialite.info, because I'm an information activist. So thetechsocialite.info. You can check me out on Facebook. They call me CAIRO QWEEN, and this is FACE.2.FACE. CAIRO QWEEN, CAIRO QWEEN. That's Cairo like Egypt, Q with a W, not a U. So, anyway, you can look me up on Twitter. Twitter is @CAIRO QWEEN. Instagram is iBroadCast, because that's what I do, and that's the name of my company, iBroadCast Enterprises. So, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, CAIRO QWEEN. All those places you want to find me, you can find me in. Oh, me, about me. everybody, all three of us are on About Me. So I'm on About Me as CAIRO QWEEN. You can pull that up there too. And, you know, I'm always on Facebook. You don't even have to use a phone because there's also an app where you can contact me on all this stuff, and it's called www.whospoppin.iBroadcast. I said it backwards. My bad. Okay, so it's www.I like I, not IYE. No, I mean EYE. It's I like ice cream, broadcast like TV. So you iBroadcast.whospoppin, that's WHOSPOPPIN.com. Pull that up on your app, pull it up on a tablet. It's really kind of cool because it accesses everything. You can email me, text me, call me, whatever, and it all goes through that app. And you don't even need to have any of my information. You just hit a button, so it's pretty cool. And that's out of Illinois for the Who's Poppin' campaign. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all the comments. Steve, and Too Cute Fairies, and somebody else, I missed it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that the next time we're face-to-face, you all can tune in and contribute some more information. And I don't know who all the viewers were, but it's cool. I'm going to circulate this around on all the social media platforms. Thank you to Google, thank you to Facebook, and thank you to Twitter for allowing me to have a platform where I can do that, and Google+. So, okay, now, ran my mouth too much, and now I'm a little bit tired, and I need to go back to work. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Love that beat background.
Oh, back in Daytona, right?
Yeah, we got to talk about having a green screen, buddy.
Yes. This is what Google supplies you with. So.
All right.
Okay.
Well, have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.